We are the paradoxical ape. Bipedal, naked, large-brained, long the master of fire, tools, and language, but still trying to understand ourselves. Aware that death is inevitable, yet filled with optimism. We grow up slowly. We hand down knowledge. We empathize and deceive. We shape the future from our shared understanding of the past. Carta brings together experts from diverse disciplines to exchange insights on who we are and how we got here. An exploration made possible by the generosity of humans like you.
So this talk is about combinatoriality in the evolution of human language. And the big problem in talking about and researching the evolution of human language is finding relevant evidence. One thing we know for sure, we can't go back and reconstruct some original language of all humanity by tracing back today's languages. So we have to look for other sources of evidence. And today I'm going to focus on languages that have originated much more recently. The sign languages that are used in communities of deaf people and communities of deaf and hearing people. First, the idea of combinatoriality. What's the difference between sounds and words? Well, here's some simple three-letter words of English. We see in this data that words are not holistic, that there's a combinatorial system that combines meaningless speech sounds, yielding words with different meanings. Now, there was an interesting discovery way back in the 18th century by a French priest, the Abbé de la Paix in Paris. He discovered that the deaf people in Paris, much to his surprise, already had a language of their own in which they could discuss any subject. And that was the beginning of recognition of sign languages as a human means of communication. American Sign Language, similarly, it's indigenous to the deaf community here. It's a mature sign language that has been evolving for about 200 years, and one of many structurally different and mutually unintelligible sign language, completely independent of English. And most importantly, it has been shown to have all the key properties of spoken languages except speech. A second and pivotal discovery came along in a book by William Stokoe in 1960. It has to do with really what is the central point of my talk today, which concerns the difference between gestures and signs. And he discovered that, like the words of spoken languages, the signs of American Sign Language, ASL, are not holistic, that there's a combinatorial system that combines meaningless parts into meaningful signs. So I'll just show you what these are. One component of signs is hand shape. So this means change. If I change the hand shape from this to this, it means translate. If I change it to this, it means interpret. So hand shape is one of the components of signs. A second is place of articulation. So this means bird. This means print. And this means 20. So same hand shape, same movement, different places of articulation at the edge of the lip, or on the other hand, or in neutral space before the signer. And finally, this movement is relevant. This means name. This means short. This means knife. And this means egg. Okay. All like so. So it's a combinatorial system. Phonological for spoken languages refers to the sound. The same term is used for sign languages. There's an inventory of hand shapes, places of articulation, and movements. These are combined in different ways to form different signs with different meanings. And each sign consists of these components: hand shape, place of articulation, and movement. And there's also a fourth orientation, but I won't get into that today. So now we know what the difference is between signs and gestures. Signs, but not gestures, result from a combinatorial system that takes these elements and combines them to produce different signs with different meanings. So here is a bird again. How do we know whether it is a sign or a gesture? And what characterizes it as a sign is it has these components: the hand shape and the L shape, movement, the index touches the thumb twice, and place of articulation is at the edge of the lip. The hand shape and movement exist in other signs, like I said before, 20, or print, or publish. And the edge of the lip is used in other signs as place of articulation, like drink or famous. Okay. So the gestural hypothesis is that what were originally gestures evolved over time into signs in a combinatorial sign system, each with its phonological representation, which simply means saying what the hand shape is, what the movement, and what the place of articulation. Important question: what would cause a gestural communication system to evolve into a combinatorial sign system? And the hypothesis I want to present today, there are two things that would drive such an evolution. The first is you get clearer articulation, because once you know you've got these three components, each of which has, in other signs, a life of its own, that limits how the signer can articulate the sign. And second, that it makes it possible for the relation between a sign's form and its meaning to be completely arbitrary, as in spoken languages. This is a huge advantage because it makes possible a vast increase in vocabulary size, so that in principle there can be a sign for any meaning. So those are the two things that I'm proposing drive the evolution from gestures to signs. Now, as I said, we can't go back to some original human language, but we can observe, in a few rare cases, the birth of a brand new manual communication system. One such is a Sayyid Bedouin in the Asaid Bedouin community in southern Israel, studied by Sandler, Aronoff, Meir, and Padden. And this is in a small, isolated Bedouin community where recently there's been widespread deafness in the community. The spoken language is Arabic, and the deaf people are using this new system, and many of the hearing people as well, because they have family and siblings and so on who are deaf. And this study started with the second generation of signers. So that is as close to the origin of languages as one can get. And it's been developing there with no contact with any other sign language. And what this team of researchers found is that these people are, by the criteria I've already laid out, are using gestures, not signs. That their words are holistic, not combinatorial. So consequently, they, being not combinatorial, each, I should really call it gesture, each gesture is not analyzable into the parts as they are, as the signs of sign languages are. So there is a way that we can use this to test some of our predictions. Since a sign cannot be characterized in terms of this is its hand shape, this its movement, this its place of articulation, then there's nothing to constrain the articulation. And what these researchers found was that, in fact, the articulation is all over the place. Not just like limited differences as you find in older languages, like some people say economics and some people say economics. No, these are all over the place, hardly recognizable in many cases. And there are big differences in pronunciation from one family to another. And it's not as clear about, I have no real data on the size of the vocabulary, but it's pretty clear that with this kind of total all over the place articulation, it can't be very big, but I would hold that in abeyance. Certainly the prediction of the proposal I made that getting a combinatorial system constrains articulation, that comes out very nicely. And the next thing I want to mention about the difference between gestures and signs is there was a lot of publicity for a long time about chimpanzees supposedly learning sign language, and the gardeners and Fouts signed with their chimps for many years and so on. Rivas, 2005, studied 22 hours of videotapes, eliminated imitations of what a caregiver had signed in the previous 5 seconds, and these are the results of these 4 chimpanzees. The first number is number of different so-called signs. I'm claiming they were not signs, but gestures. And that the 4 most frequent gestures by Washoe accounted for 58% of his total production. For Moja, the 4 most frequent accounted for 45%, Tatu 46%, Dar 41%. So my conclusion is, especially if you compare with the very large vocabularies of children learning a spoken language, conclusion, the chimpanzees learn no signs at all, just a small set of holistic gestures. Combinatoriality is widespread in language. There's combinatorial morphology that combines meaningful units word stems, prefixes, suffixes into complex words. So we get complex words like undeniability. And combinatorial syntax combines words into phrases and sentences. Combinatorial semantics combines the meanings of smaller parts of sentences, of words into phrases, phrases into sentences. And consequently, combinatoriality characterizes human language at every level. We're a combinatorial species. Thank you.